Hey everybody, sorry I'm a minute late. I like to be punctual, but I was outside taking the dog out. So I have a lot of questions tonight. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I answered one of them yesterday. If you didn't already see that, I wanted to make sure I gave that one plenty of attention. If you didn't catch it, I talked about the controversial topic, the upper body moves on a bike. The gist, if you missed it, and you can go back and watch it, just scroll down. It's in here in the feed. But if you missed it, I gave a few things, 3 to be exact, 3 things that I use to figure out if I'm comfortable doing a move in a class. And I shared it with all you guys, and the gist was that everyone's going to have their own opinion, everyone's going to have their own decision on what they are comfortable teaching based on their certification, based on their level of comfort with those moves themselves. All sorts of factors come into play, but just remember that it has to be your decision. So go back and watch that if you didn't see it, and we will hop into some of the questions for today. So I'm going to do Cindy's first. Cindy, if you're on, say hi. Hi, Claudia. Guys, if you're on, say hi. I can't see who's on. So Cindy asked a question in our last live after I finished it, so I want to make sure I answer hers first. She asked, is it bad that in my classes I try to put a little bit of everything in? My focus is intervals. I do cadence intervals, climb alternating with sprints, rolling hills, climbing on the hill, and then sprinting, ladders, etc. Would that be an interval-based class? Okay, so I think your question here is it bad that you kind of just mix everything in there? Is it bad that you don't necessarily have one thing that you're focusing on for that class? You're not really periodizing your training. So here's the thing. And I wrote some notes here, but it really depends on a lot of different factors. And I know it depends sucks as an answer, but I'll explain why. So it depends on, first of all, how often you're teaching. So if you're teaching at one gym 3 days a week and you get a lot of the same people, then you can really focus on trying to periodize a training, trying to really get them results. You know, maybe you go from endurance to strength and then you build up for a race day or whatever it is. And that's fun for you, honestly. If you're getting the same people and you can really like almost train them as if you're a trainer, granted I'm biased because I'm also a trainer, but you can take them on a journey as opposed to just taking one class, throwing everything in it and having at it. Now, that being said, there are a lot of people who teach, classes where they don't get a lot of regulars or honestly maybe just once or twice a week. In that case, it's really hard to do something like that and periodize your training and really have purpose to every class. So the goal is, honestly, it's up to you, but it's probably just going to be to get them a good workout for that day and have them leaving feeling energized, confident, happy, all that jazz. So whatever that means for you, if these intervals are working and people like that and that fits the goals of the riders and they're coming to your class, then I'd say go for it. If you're getting feedback like, oh, there was way too many intervals and we went from hill to interval and it was too hard and it confused me or something, which I don't think you're going to get, but if you are, that's your feedback. That's how you know you need to tweak some things. So pay attention to that. It's really, honestly, it's hard because I think a lot of us, I'm speaking for especially the Mad Dog spinning people I know because I went through that training way back when, they teach us to kind of periodize or, to, like I said, you kind of go in like semesters. I don't even know how to explain it, but you're basically going in chunks, so you're focusing on one thing one week and one thing the next, and the goal is to build up to a race day. Then you recover, then you redo, and maybe you're using power to train that way. So we're kind of taught that that's really how it should be because that's how you train outside. But in reality, we're not going to get those people. I mean, I have a lot of people who only come spin once a week, maybe once a month, maybe just during the winter months, maybe just during, this time or that time, and you're going to get a lot of that. So it's hard to really focus a class as a smaller part of kind of a macro cycle if you don't have those regulars. So I think it's okay to do a lot of different things in your class and get the energy up and get people excited if it's working. And you'll know if it's working based on the people and how they feel and then the results that they're getting. So hopefully that was helpful. Katie asked, how do you do a watts-based ride with riders that haven't done an FTP test? Is there a way to do it safely? Oh no, I'm running out of battery. Do I have a plug? I don't. Okay, so FTP test, that's a tough one. I like to do them quarterly maybe even every couple months, just for fun. I do have a lot of regulars, so it works out well, but there's always going to be people in your class, even if you train with power, who are new. There's often going to be someone who might not be new, but maybe they missed the power class, the FTP class. For those of you who don't know, FTP, functional threshold power. If you don't teach with power, this is irrelevant for you. A lot of you probably do or want to, or at least know how to. FTP is difficult when people haven't taken an FTP. Power is difficult to train with if you don't know your FTP. I would always suggest that no matter what you're doing in your class, if it's a power-based class and that's how you're teaching it, you're always going to have other metrics. So you're always going to be referring to your RPM, or you're always going to be referring to, I wouldn't give a gear number, but you always want to be explaining what it should feel like, right? You always want them to know, oh, is it an extra heavy hill? Is this as if, you're pedaling through mud, or is it moderate resistance just above a light road, a flat road? You're not breathless. Explain how they should really be feeling, like down to the core. And then it doesn't matter if they need to know their power or not, because they'll know how they should feel. So I think you can totally do a power-based class and just make sure you're training to the people that don't know their power number. And as you're doing it, I would suggest tell them to look at that number. What does it look like? Does it look like it should if you're on a heavy hill? Is it higher than it was when you were on a flat road? And maybe start to get them familiar with what power is, so that when you do that next FTP test, they'll want to come so they can understand it. Because part of the problem with power is that people get super intimidated and they miss that FTP class by accident because they don't think it's worth understanding. So if you can use that time to show them the value of it without them knowing totally what it is, but just getting familiar with it, that could be a great way to introduce your students to power. So that's just an idea. Kate asked, you know what, I should find a plug. Let me see how much battery I have. All right, I'm going to keep going. If I lose you guys, I'll come back. So Kate asked, I feel I could use better inspiration for tougher classes. At my new gym, after my first cycle class, there was someone that said I wasn't hard enough. I wondered, were they just not listening or not challenging themselves? Was I a good coach leader? Okay, so that's going to be tough. There's always going to be those people. So the problem is, it's a mix between people who are pacing themselves and, they don't work hard until the very end of class because they think it's going to get so hard that they don't really try for the beginning half of class. I see that a lot. I think as instructors, the way that we can fight back on this and fight back on those people that said your class wasn't hard enough, or honestly on the other side, that your class was too hard, the best thing you could do is, honestly, what I was just saying to Katie, is you just have to cue as best as you can so that they know exactly how they should feel. And on top of that, you have to set up what your class is going to look like. Because if they get in there and they don't know what to expect, they don't know when the hardest point of class is going to be, they don't know how many hills they're doing that day, they don't know, any of it, then they're way more likely to pace themselves and not really work hard until they get to that very end of class trying to get a workout in because they didn't really try for the first half. So I would just suggest that you're really focusing on, setting up your class. At the beginning of class, tell them what to expect, tell them when they're going to work their hardest, tell them what you expect from them in each song. This is our hardest song of the day, this is our recovery song, whatever it is, set it up so that they know exactly how hard they should be working. And aside from that, and aside from the remainder of your cueing in your class, it's really going to be up to them how hard they work. And remind them of that. Remind them that this is their class. You can't tell how much resistance they have on their bike. They could be tricking you. Just remind them not to cheat themselves. I say that all the time to my students. I don't know how hard you're working, but this is your class, so don't cheat yourself. It comes down to that. You could ride in any of our classes and be on a flat road the whole time, and most of us, we'd probably be able to tell, but they could still do it and not get a workout in, and it'd be a total waste. So I think you just have to really explain to them what they should feel and what they should expect, and that it's up to them to work. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay, Tiffany. Unseasoned instructor question. Those are my favorite, Tiffany. I currently have 5 p.m. classes and pretty much, quote, bring it. Music is upbeat, energy is high, wonderful, wonderful. However, I was recently offered 2 morning classes. Here is my concerning question. Is there a difference or expected difference from AM to PM? In other words, can you still bring the bass, beat, and energy that early? Asking for a friend. Awesome. Okay, so that's a great question because I think we all need to spend a little bit of time thinking about who our demographic is, who's showing up to your classes. I guarantee you that the people I'm getting at a 6 a.m. Boston class, which is a mix of I have a lot of young girls, but then at another place I teach, I have a lot of older men who ride outside. And it's the same time those people are showing up, but then at 6 p.m. class, it might be totally different. So, and it depends on where you're teaching. Are you at a studio or are you at a gym? It's gonna change entirely from all of us and from class to class and from day to day, to be completely honest, season to season, whatever it is. So you have to know your students. You have to know what to expect, what they like, because that's gonna change things a little bit, especially when it comes to like your music and getting the energy up. I personally have found that the earlier people are the people that need a little bit less motivation. They're up and at 'em. They're in the gym by 6 a.m. They don't really need you to push them. They come because they want to hear you doing it, but they can push themselves pretty well. The evening classes that I've seen and the afternoon classes, it's more they want fun. They want an escape. They want, they want to have a party a little bit. With the music, you don't have to do it with the moves, but that's personally what I've seen. It might not be the same for you, but you will know once you get in there and you teach a few times, you teach a few classes, you'll know what kind of to expect with them, because people will let you know. If they're not enjoying your class, you'll see it. But it really comes down to oftentimes the music for people. And like you said, I don't know if heavy bass is a great thing for a 6 a.m. class, but I don't know if you teach in like a college area where you have a lot of younger people, maybe it is. Maybe it's great. If you're going to have a lot of, middle-aged to older people, maybe not. Maybe try mixing it up. Or maybe go in there with a total mix of songs and see what hits. So that's an option too. But I think you could probably keep your class the same, assuming you're teaching in a way that you're comfortable with, and just mix up the music a little bit. Because music tends to be, other than the environment, which you can't do much about, the big hitter when it comes to the energy. And just bring your motivation, bring your energy. You'll need to bring it at the beginning of class because they're all going to be half asleep. They'll get into it as you go, but I've found that you don't need to be quite as loud and talkative in those morning classes because they kind of just want to get their sweat in and get going. So, all right, last question. Trying to go through these fast. There was a lot of them. Oh, Jesse, we kind of already talked about this, I guess. We were talking about a live course, and sorry, someone just called me. Okay, so live trainings. Jesse, I think you're somewhere where it seems a little bit sparse. I did look for you. I did a little bit tougher to find them, but I would just keep an eye out I would look on Spinning's website and Schwinn's. I think they're the best live trainings that I've personally seen. If anyone has any suggestions, feel free to put them in the comments, but those are the most comprehensive that I've seen, the most well-known, the most reputable. I think if you keep an eye out on those and you still don't see anything, then we can dive a little bit deeper. But their websites you can just plug in a location and they'll show you what's available. And if you really want to get a training sooner than that, we'll look together. Just let me know, and we'll figure it out. But those are the best, in my opinion. If people have other suggestions, I know there's a lot of different certifications in this group, so I'm sure people have feedback on that. I cannot see all the comments, guys. So if you have questions, I don't know why Facebook doesn't let me see comments anymore, but I'll check them after and I can definitely answer anything next week. So please feel free to, if you have follow-up questions or anything, leave them on here. Otherwise, if you have comments on what I said or you have other suggestions for people, please feel free to leave them. You guys know I'm in here all the time checking stuff, so I'll always opine if I see it, but you guys can support each other as well. So I think that's all I had. Next time, I'll try to give you an update on where I'm at with our class profile course. I'm working on it. I really want to be thorough with this, guys. I want to honestly just make it amazing. I have the system all in place, but the way I want to teach it to you is very specific. So I'll get it to you, I promise, but give me some time to just make it the best I can make it. And if you're not on the wait list already, you can hop on it. I'll put the link in the comments just to make it easy, but make sure you get on it because it actually is already pretty big and I'm not going to take like a ton of people. So if you want to get on the course training for how to build a class profile, make sure you get on now. And that is all I have. Have a rest of your Thursday. Have a wonderful, forgot the adjective there, rest of your Thursday, and I will see you all next week. As always, I'm in here every day, all the time, so any questions, post them in the group. And I'll see you guys later. Good night.